All right, good morning, Instagram. We're going live with Lâma Coach from Antwerp, Belgium. I'm gonna wait for her to log in. Here we go. Here we are.
Hey, we made it.
All right, we did it.
Hi,
We are live.
Zane.
I'm in California. Lâma Coach joining from Antwerp, Belgium. We're happy to be here. Yay, we did it.
And it is 10 a.m. at your time, 7 p.m.
Right,
at my
it's
time.
10 a.m.
Yeah.
California. I'm in Central Valley, California, 2 hours north of Los Angeles. Town is called Bakersfield. The land is Yokit's land. We are blessed to be on here. Hey, Sheena's here. Sheena's in my notes. Take note. Sheena Sood's in the chat. Great.
Nice. Hi,
Sheena's shining.
Christina.
Great. Yogis for Palestine in the
Nice.
chat. Wonderful. Good to have you, Sheena. All right. So I think we can begin whenever you like, Lâma. Yeah.
All right. So finally we made it. We've been talking about doing this for a while, and maybe you want to just for the folks in Belgium, because you are coming to us soon, and we're so excited to have you. Maybe if you can just, introduce yourself a little bit, tell us a little bit about how you got into teaching yoga. Just let us know your
brief bio. Sure.
Yes,
yeah.
Please.
Okay. So, folks in Belgium, I'm looking forward to visiting for the first time in Antwerp. Thanks to Lâma Coach for connecting and inviting me. Never been out there. I've been to Europe several times. I'm returning for a traveling teaching tour through Europe, and I'll finish the tour in Antwerp. I'm based out of California, as I mentioned. I started teaching 12 years ago in 2012. My first class was at a prison. It's a well-known prison in the West Coast and the United States called San Quentin Prison. That was my first class and also one of my favorite classes. I miss those guys. I started there and I taught all over the Bay Area. That's Northern California. I taught in the East Bay, Berkeley, Oakland. I taught in San Francisco, in Marin, in San Quentin, at a yoga chain called Yoga Works as well. I taught at the Iyengar Yoga Institute in San Francisco. And then also in Los Angeles, I taught at the Iyengar Yoga Institute in Los Angeles. And this was all while I was still retaining my certification with Iyengar Yoga. Mm-hmm. During pandemic times, we all transitioned to online teaching. I taught online classes for over 3 years. Before last year was my first out of the country, out of the States, traveling once again. And that was in Sousse, Tunisia. Wonderful community in Sousse. And also during the pandemic, I decided to part from holding my certification. I wrote a blog about it. We don't have a chat about it here, but you can go onto my website, zane.yoga/blog. And I put out my thoughts and feelings of how I was feeling at the time and why I chose to make that transition. Iyengar Yoga is and always will be the backbone of my practice. It is what has inspired me. It is what has influenced me. It is why we are talking here, believe it or not. We have other intersections we'll connect on, why we connected. But I would say without BKS Iyengar and Iyengar Yoga and all my mentors, senior teachers and mentors, I would not be here and I would not possess the experience and knowledge I was given in a relatively short period of time, but a deep dive for an exponential growth. I think I'll leave it at that. And then I started traveling. If you want to talk about traveling overseas,
because I mean, you've been around. You've been all over. I mean, tell us how many countries you've taught in. I mean, that's so impressive.
Thank you so much. I feel blessed and grateful for the opportunities I've received. I mean, I still feel early in my career, 12 years, but I think after 7 years in, 7 years in, I was making videos and posting content online, and so were other yoga teachers, but I think maybe perhaps within the larger Iyengar yoga community, global community, maybe not so many people were putting out content at the time. So I just had the good luck of, at the time, just, putting out some demonstrations and poses and things I was learning, I was excited to share about in a fun and creative way, using music also. And that took some attention on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And then around 2014, so about 10 years ago, is when I started to experience the viral effect through my videos. So I have to make a post about it. It was in Lois Steinberg is a senior teacher out of Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. It was one of her workshops. Videos captured some demonstration, and it was posted and shared by the Iyengar Yoga Association of the United States, and that made a lot of exposure for me, and I started connecting with communities, particularly overseas, which was interesting, and I got a lot of attention from South America. And I noticed, all my followers and majority of my followers and supporters were all over, but I had a large following in South America. So the first place I ever taught overseas was Sao Paulo, Brazil. Big love to everybody in Brazil. Analu Matsubara was the senior Iyengar yoga teacher who invited me down there, which was also rare and unknown for a senior teacher to invite a introductory
Wow.
teacher. That was uh, surprise and all kinds of just unknowns. I didn't know what I was getting into. I was very nervous before teaching. I'm always actually very nervous before teaching, but I've learned to embrace that anxiety and use it to my advantage. And so that was December 2017. December 2017 was when I first took flight out of the States, and I did a little mini tour across Brazil, Sao Paulo. We went to Florianopolis, beautiful island off the Atlantic coast, and also Uberlândia in central Brazil, where they have some of the best coffee and açaí in Minas Gerais, the state of Minas Gerais. So that's where it started. And then I just felt blessed to receive more invitations overseas. If we had more time, Lama, I could go through all the countries and cities, but I think that could take up to another 15 minutes
But
of
I
our
think you
chat.
mentioned like around what, 35 countries or so? Over 35
35
countries?
cities, 35. I think the last time I counted, it was 35
35
cities and
cities.
22 or more countries thus
Wow.
far. Last year, I added 3 new countries I never visited to, including Tunisia, Ecuador, and El Salvador. And this year, I'll be adding Portugal and Belgium to
Yeah.
countries I've never visited before.
Honestly,
So feel blessed.
so I'm so excited that we are going to be part of your, your next
Thank
stop, so to speak.
you. And I feel just as excited and grateful to have that experience and find a community and find connections such as yourself out there in Antwerp. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Zane. So, I mean, I don't know. For those who don't know me, I'm Lama. I'm also a teacher and I'm a coach. So I do a lot of holistic coaching, embodied therapy, and I recently opened my own space in Antwerp. It's only been a year actually, and it wasn't my idea to ever open my own space because I never really wanted to be tied down. But then things just unfolded and organically happened, and how you and I connected was it was just also this organic
Yes.
blossoming of something that through these dark times actually I stumbled across one of your posts where you were very vocal about Palestine and about what's happening and the genocide, and I was like, oh my gosh, like breath of fresh air, someone from the yoga community is finally talking about this and being very open. And so I took it upon
Yeah.
myself to just send you like a DM just thanking you. And I was like, all right, this guy has like so many followers and he's not gonna, he's probably not gonna read my message, not gonna get back to me. And I was so touched and surprised where you actually like got back to me and you were like thanking me for recognizing that. And so that started this conversation and we started to kind of connect
Yes.
and talk about this and then talk about it, what it means in yoga and what it means within the spiritual community and mental health and how can we continue our work when this is going on if we're not actually looking at this that's going on. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, congratulations, first of all, Lama, for opening up your studio. I know it's
thank
not an
you.
easy feat,
Yeah,
something I've stayed away from because that's a whole different dimension of
yeah.
business we live in and work. And I'm always impressed and inspired by yoga studio owners. They do a lot of work. And also for your space, offering all different modalities, yoga and beyond, somatic movement and everything you offer through your coaching services. I'm also really grateful to be one of the first, visiting teachers soon in July. And yeah, I do remember, Lama, when you messaged, but before the messaging, I did read, I think it was a comment of yours that touched my heart, something about a post I'd made, I think in November, and you've written something that really touched me. And I was like, wow, I don't know who reads these posts. And I remember the comment, and then I reached out. I didn't know anything about your background and whatnot, and it was great to learn about your background, your story, and in the short time, I think maybe since February or January, February, we started connecting.
Yeah.
And then I think you came to learn maybe that I was traveling and teaching, and we just put some feelers out there that we can make this a possibility. And I'm so glad and grateful we are doing that. So thank you, Lama.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So Zane is coming, right? July 6th and 7th. So we're gonna have like a full-on beautiful workshop. And if you wanna say something about the workshop or, we can, yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about if you want to get into that. I'm happy to. I also want to I'm happy to also share about our intersection of crossing, as you mentioned.
Yes.
We can just put it out there. Go to you want to put out your Instagram and website maybe, so anyone paying attention right now
Yeah.
and doesn't watch the remainder of the video and excited to practice together, you can follow Lâma Coach and get to her website. And I hope to see you in Antwerp.
Yeah, just go to my link tree and you'll immediately see the workshop, and you can sign up for the workshop, either for the whole workshop or just a single one of them. But we like it that if you stay for the whole weekend, because there's going to be, it's going to be a whole journey together. So we'll talk about the details maybe a little bit later in the talk, but you wanted to say something as well about our
Yeah.
intersection. Yeah.
Well, I'm liking the effects that I chose. I chose some kind of a filter to make my space a little brighter because I'm in
Yeah,
shade.
you're
Beautiful day out
sparkling.
here,
You're
and
sparkling.
my lion is keffiyeh is sparkling. So I just noticed
I've
that.
got mine on too. Yeah.
Mashallah, wonderful. Yes, you got your keffiyeh. We will rock it together in Antwerp, and also I think you had mentioned maybe teaching me a few basic moves of the dabka dance, as your background is from Lebanon, and we can even talk about that. But I want to speak to you a little bit of what you said about maybe a letdown you had felt in the yoga space, which I think is common with other folks too, at least in my conversations with yoga teachers and colleagues, and most, a lot of online interaction. I'll get a fair amount of messages in support for speaking up, and also followed by disappointment for the silence in the larger yoga and wellness spaces. And even right now, in terms of what's happening in Rafah right now, it's unbelievable. Massacre after massacre as we speak right now. Innocent children, women and men being unalived. It's heartbreaking. It's most tragic. And also feels, of course, helpless and hopeless, but that doesn't mean we can't speak to it. And I do wonder, what is it that in this particular, whether you want to call it conflict, war, or genocide, or just the greatest, humanitarian catastrophe of this century, what is it that limits people with the hesitation to just voice up in something like social media? And I'm only saying that to just say, if folks didn't speak up before, because not everyone does use social media or go to protest, and that's okay. Yeah. But anyone who stood up for, at least here in America and across the whole world, BLM movement, Black Lives Matter, folks who've stood up for women's rights, people who spoke up for animal rights, environmental issues, and here we're silent. It just really perplexes me. I think that's a nicer way to put it. What I was, the conversation I was having in my head this morning when I was taking a shower was maybe a different narrative of WTF that comes up, and I still don't get it. And that could be extended, that disappointment or letdown, or that letdown. It can be maybe extended beyond outside of yoga world, but also celebrity culture. Artists, high-profile figures who can make an impact by just using their voice. And they have used their voice in the past. And that's, I think, the distinction I'm trying to make in this kind of thing, is to calling those in. Like, if you've used your voice before, why not now? What's creating that hesitation or restriction or whatever? I mean, I have some ideas, especially in the yoga world I can speak to. Maybe you can relate this idea of othering. I don't know if you've had that come up in your conversations, like, I think I get it and I support, taking the middle way, but this is not the middle way I'm on. This is not the middle way I learned about or signed up for, that I don't pick sides. Because that's the thing, when you have to make a side on morality, there has to be one side that you feel your heart's aligned with. Here, we're aligned with humanity. And that's what we've learned in yoga. At least just keep it basic. The first yama, ahimsa. Non-violence, and I feel I'm not sure where that goes amiss or gets redefined in a different way. And there's so much gaslighting also, and
so much
blame shifting and justification and dehumanization. It's quite sickening and troubling.
And the thing is also, it's like, if you speak to one thing, it doesn't mean that you are speaking against the other thing. It just means that this needs attention right now. I mean, we're talking about like 100% of the population being displaced, 100%. We're talking about, like 50% of the population, children that have been, killed. So we are talking about that. And if we just look at that, and if you take away the flags and you take away the borders and you take away everything, and we just look at just that, just from a human perspective. And I listened to someone say something once really interesting, and she's a writer, and she was saying that, you know what, the opposite of good is not evil, because there's actually not a lot of evil. There's only like a small percentage of people in the world who are really evil, but maybe the opposite of good is numbness. Maybe the opposite of good is
Yeah.
is the turning away.
Yes.
And that becomes the complicity to evil doing,
Yeah.
right?
That's
And
true. Yeah.
and so
Or
this is
I can feel that could be a truth for me. I don't know if it's, but I said it's true, but it feels right. It's aligned with how I've been feeling.
mhm,
Numbness, I think, is a good place to put it. And maybe a deeper psychology analysis into that could be a, trauma response. Why
mhm,
do we numb out? When have I been numb to other
mhm,
things? Why was I numb and uninformed I was late to the history class, let's
mhm,
just say,
mhm,
75 years, but also learning from what's happened since October into 8 months in now. I've come to learn about other atrocities and genocides happening: Congo, Sudan,
mhm,
Myanmar, the Uyghurs, Armenia, so
mhm,
much more.
mhm.
Uh, that it doesn't have to be, because the whataboutisms, those it comes up.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's also another coping mechanism to be numb. It's like, oh, well,
Mhm.
I can't do much. What about this? What about that?
Yeah. It's also, I think the unwillingness to feel discomfort.
Yes.
And it's this thing where, like, I don't want to, I don't want to get uncomfortable. And the way I see it, especially in our work, it's how can you be a human or do this kind of work, be it spirituality or healing, mental health, coaching, all of that space. How can we continue to be speaking about all of that and yet kind of turning a blind eye to what our world is actually going
Yeah.
through right now? I mean, it also feels like, and I think you said that as well, which was really beautiful last time during our conversation. And you said that Gaza is like the moral litmus, our moral litmus test.
Yes. Or,
It's really like testing our moral compass.
yes. It's a moral litmus test for humanity at large, because we compare, and I don't want to compare because I don't want to play trauma Olympics with, oh, this atrocity more and less or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when the unfortunate and tragic Ukraine war started in February, I think, of 2022, it's February, yeah. I remember I was so heartbroken. I wrote to all my friends in Kiev that I had befriended during my travels, my hosts out there checking in on folks. I did workshops, fundraisers, and I think pretty much the whole world, it felt like, stood up against
Uh-huh.
what was right.
Mm-hmm.
And when what's happening in Gaza and West Bank and Palestine, and to the Palestinian diaspora, and at larger, I would say this goes to, a particular group of people, Arabs, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different response. And that's something I think it's important to speak to. Um, when the skin, the color of skin is changed and similar, they could be
Mm-hmm.
very different, but, let's just generalize tragedy or massacres or occupation, oppression, and genocide. And the different skin color is put forth and the response is different. And that's really the part that hurts my heart a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Yeah.
And it's pretty evident and obvious. And then we have to get into all the debates and whataboutisms and counterpoints of why it's different, why it's this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I like how you mentioned remove all the other things, and what's left, it's humans,
Mm-hmm.
it's innocent humans, it's children. The average age
Mm-hmm.
unalived through this war in Gaza is age 5.
Mm-hmm.
And in Rafah right now, what I've been seeing,
Oh my God.
and
Yeah.
I don't, this is an unfiltered chat. The beheaded babies right
Mm-hmm.
here on my
Mm-hmm.
phone. You can see it. My phone has turned into the algorithms turned into a live stream genocide. I personally, yes, I'm sure for sure, affected by whatever I watch. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, before our misscheduling or my misunderstanding with the, live chat, today is a much better day because I'm not waking up in nightmares. Yesterday, I did have some really funky,
Mm-hmm.
wild, and dark nightmares because I'd stayed up the night before watching my Instagram and watching Motaz's account and Bissam's account, Wizard Bissam and Motaz. And if folks watching are not familiar with that, those are some of the most powerful journalists that we've had to document this live stream while
Who
Motaz was there.
fortunately have not been killed, because many have
Absolutely, and
been.
we hope not, and we hope not. We wish,
Yeah.
we pray not. Yeah. And I was reading some other posts yesterday that the last like legit press camera or equipment, whatever facility they had in Gaza, has been taken by the occupying forces. And that's so disheartening. That's never happened in any other conflict or war or genocide. Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to continue talking like we do on our chats and WhatsApp. I'll let you redirect and structure our conversation so we're not going.
But I also wanted to ask you, because you've been so open and vocal, and I know you mentioned also, you've lost some followers because of that.
Oh yeah, thousands.
Yeah. And also, and how is it for you, like being so, openly vocal also in the US? Like, how is it over there? I know also you've got like Jewish friends and, you're part of that community.
That's right. Yeah. I'm really grateful for all my Jewish brothers and sisters who are standing in solidarity, even more so than I am in terms of the actions they're taking. I think I needed to have a reckoning or recognizing something within myself about how I was raised and the indoctrination I was programmed into with any form of anti-Semitism, being born in a Islamic Republic nation in Pakistan, perhaps, the upbringing about what's happening in Israel, about the conflict that's been ongoing 75 years. I felt I didn't get the knowledge and distinction between the Zionist project and Judaism as a faith. So they were all grouped together. So it took me a long time, I felt, into my young adulthood, that I was able to make friendships and connections with Jewish folks and come to learn about the faith and tradition and culture and attending Jewish weddings and living with a devout Jew, my former roommate in Oakland, and now his wife, who's finished rabbinical school, and she's a rabbi now, and they call me every year during Passover, and they do a ritual of selling a non-Jewish person bread, and I have to buy this bread, and they sell it back to me. It's this whole thing, and it's beautiful, and I love it. And last conversation I had with them, not only was in full support, but after the chat, his wife and also my friend, she'd sent me a link that she had for a GoFundMe for a family she knew through somebody who was trying to evacuate from Gaza. She said, hey, would you mind posting this on your account? I said, yeah, it's on my bio now. So y'all can check that out. And also in the creative world, I'm connected with many talented and skillful and compassionate DJs, many of who have a Jewish background, who've done fundraisers for Gaza. So that's always been a big part of this current thing. And I've learned so much, maybe yourself, or maybe you already knew, but about the Zionist project and what it means and how it's been played out in what's happening and how it continues to unfold. And furthermore, on a larger scope of what's happening in the USA with AIPAC and many Zionist supporters, the politicians in the United States are very complicit in this genocide, enabling it and funding it. So, so I think that I just wanted to mention that it was important for me to recognize that within my own journey, my own relationship with partition from India and Pakistan, the impact of that on a collective population. Pakistan being one of the, I think, 5th or 6th more populated countries in the world. And then also, on my path to finding yoga and yoga philosophy through the Bhagavad Gita and learning about Hinduism and Buddhism. What I studied, part of what I studied in college was Buddhist studies and Buddhist psychology. I wrote my thesis on Buddhist psychology. And, so I felt I've done some breakthrough work, I feel so at least, of my own culture, my own people. And that's why I'm so grateful to see now so many folks, people of color, particularly from South Asia, yoga teachers, because when I first started, it was pretty slim to none presence, brown folks, Indian, Pakistani, Nepali, Bangladeshi, Afghani folks in yoga spaces. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. And you know, you said something before, if like just go back to it a little bit. You said something about like the darker skin color and how somehow like it's not that we are impacted more, but it's almost like we understand this kind of colonialism on a somatic level. You know, it's like we carry this generationally from our grandparents and great grand. I mean, for me, for example, you know, I'm from Lebanon. I carry the trauma of war in my bones. My husband lived through the war. My father speaks of it. My grandmother was shot and killed by a sniper.
Oh my God.
So you
Sorry.
know, and this was also, you know, in the 70s and then in the 80s and then again 1990, six, and then again in 2006, and then so it's just this ongoing conflict also. And so with us as well, and with, you know, the Palestinian struggle, it's very much intertwined, especially like I'm from the South, so we're very much
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
and
That's
the
right.
war
Yeah.
that started in Lebanon actually was started because of the Palestinian, struggle. So
Yes.
it's very much it's almost somatic. It's almost intrinsic, and it's not that we're, you know, there's a side to pick here. It's
Yeah.
literally like you were just saying. This is not just humans being killed, but it's the justice. It's for them to have the right for liberation. It's for them to have the right for freedom, for their own statehood, to be acknowledged that they exist as a people. So that has always been, you know, something that at least I know that we feel, because it's something that we grew up with as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hearing about it, living around it, but also experiencing ourselves, from what Lebanon has been going through.
Absolutely.
So,
I recently
yeah.
read a post, maybe I think last night. I have to find it to repost it, but it was just like a piece of writing, not quite a meme, but handwritten by someone. I'll have to find it to quote them. But it's talking about folks who are standing up and in solidarity with Palestine. Perhaps they are, whether consciously or unconsciously, have been affected by imperial colonialism
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
some impacted and affected by that,
Mm-hmm.
whether directly or through generational trauma or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
such as my case for, British colonialism in South Asia of
Yeah,
Greater India that was
exactly.
divided later. So,
Yeah.
and the folks who are siding with the Zionist entity that we're trying to overthrow and dismantle are upholding that imperialist
Mm-hmm.
colonialist movement or trajectory. So I don't think that's true for everybody, but I think it was just something that I related with, that I was like, oh, interesting. I wonder if some of my friends or colleagues or folks I've studied with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I think most
Yeah.
people are good at heart. Most people have right heart for humanity. But I think when it comes to being vocal or voice and just making a clear stance, it's hard. And one thought when we're talking that came was that the folks who are questioning this whole othering,
Mm-hmm.
I think, like you said, there's no side to pick here. So I think when you propose the question of, I don't know what side to pick, or the other side has this case to make, this and that, I think you're already assuming that there's a side to be
Yeah.
had. And there's no side in violence or massacres. There's an oppressor and oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the imbalanced dynamic that we're looking at. Somebody's on the ground and somebody's knees on somebody's neck. There's nothing you think about and you say, hey, stop, this can't go on. And we do
Mm-hmm.
that in public spaces. Any kind of violent acts we see, at least for me, my hyper empath kicks in. And, we do our best to call attention to that and want to undo that, make it stop and undo it. So yeah, I feel I don't know what it's like in the yoga community in Antwerp and Belgium at large and in Europe, but I know what I was noticing when the current war started. I was very disappointed with what I was seeing from some countries and places and regions that I wouldn't expect
Mm-hmm.
maybe to be opposing
Mm-hmm.
the solidarity. But it seems more and more people are waking up and getting aligned. And finally, and it's never too late. That's another thing to say. If you haven't voiced anything or said anything, it's never too late. I don't want to reprimand
Yeah.
anybody or guilt them, like, you're late, why didn't you speak before? Because we see that in the comment.
Mhm.
Keyboard warriors say that a lot. Um, and I want to have some grace on myself for ever liking a comment on a celebrity or a high profile figure for being called out like that. Because I'll say, yeah, I agree. Like, where were you
Yeah.
before? But in terms of like in group within, I don't. And I feel I'm hoping more, close ones and folks within the yoga spaces, teachers, mentors, coaches, trauma-informed therapists, any person identifying with the healing world. It's just odd that we would not bring attention to this. I just taught yoga classes at a festival, super fun festival here that happens in my backyard of Bakersfield, California, called Lightning in a Bottle. My favorite place to be. Every year I'm feeling grateful. They invite me back to teach classes there. And I wanted to teach this class, Heart Openers for Humanity, which we'll do in Antwerp too.
Mhm.
And it's just a minor thing to have a moment of recognition, intention, and rooting into the collective liberation for Palestine and spreading that as a collective liberation for all people under occupation, oppression, to not have and to be never experiencing anything,
Mhm.
even genocidal intent or experience. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. But I know people go to the festival to maybe escape from that. I don't want to hear news and politics and this. I want to be free. And to me, I'm feeling so free and
Yeah.
grateful that we get to play in paradise and watch all these amazing artists and bands and DJs and yoga and movement.
Mhm.
It's not that big of a deal just to have this moment and just acknowledge this ain't right.
Because
It
you
hurts.
liberate yourself at the same time.
It
You
feels
liberate
so.
yourself.
It feels so.
Yeah.
And
It's,
one of the challenges I've had of being vocal within, I would say, like, thing is like, how do I make it sound so I don't want to come off as I'm more humanitarian than thou? And that's
mm,
also come up in my own personal lifestyle choice of, well, diet being plant-based, but lifestyle being also going vegan. For me, when people say, oh, do you feel like you're doing the right thing? I was like, I don't know if it's the right thing for me, but I think it's the right thing for the animal I'm not
yeah.
killing. I've got all kinds of problems and issues and shadow work I got to work on within. Like, there's all going on. But I hope I'm doing something a little bit better for the living creatures if I can make the choice to not unalive them and use them for any
Mm,
kind of product on my body or within my systems of my body for nourishment and nutrition, then if I can make that choice, I will. And
mm,
likewise here, I feel same thing. If I can make a choice to be a little bit less harmful, whatever, and vocalize, hey, less harm, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't take that much effort. And I think
mhm,
you asked a question earlier that I didn't fully answer, like how did I feel speaking up and this and that.
mhm.
I felt like I was being myself.
Yeah.
It felt easy and natural. In fact,
Mm,
the years prior to, I felt a little phony.
mm,
Heart openers, love and light, feel good, good vibes only, and I made it work, and it worked well. I got, attention and followers and all this stuff. But if my followers are only paying attention to, advanced, whatever, intermediate poses, back bends, handstands, and then turn a blind eye to heart opening for humanity, then I'm not so sure if I want to do work with them
mm,
or align with them for business and also just personal interactions.
mhm. Yeah. It's tapping into that raw authenticity. I mean, like, I know also for me, I kind of struggled to speak about this in the beginning because I was just, I don't want to tread on anyone's toes and I'm being very sensitive.
Right.
And
Yep.
but at the end of the day, I mean, like, what's happening is beyond sensitive. It's just it's like pain all over. So
And
yeah,
also, my place is not doing anything that incites
of
violence
course.
in retaliation to
Mm,
something. Because we've
yeah.
seen that in a lot of the protests that have come up, and there's Zionist thugs, or maybe even not even Zionists, just people who are wanting to cause trouble because of Arab phobe or Arabophobia
Mm,
or some grouping of, oh, radical left, they're all this. So, but response to that, everyone has a right to respond how they choose. My response is when there's violence, you get out.
mhm.
I get out of that
Yeah.
situation. I don't retaliate, but I don't think everyone's aligned with that. I support anyone who wants to choose to respond in any which way, if by means of some kind of resistance that's yeah, aggression because somebody's attacking you. That's what people do. And but I'm not, on that level, and I feel grateful that I don't have to be involved like that. But everyone's doing their own hard work in ways that can. Everything, that's one thing I think, if anything out of this conversation, everything counts. Every little action counts. So making a little watermelon emoji in your bio or chat, even if it's not related to talking about Palestine right now. I was following or just came on my algorithm, some dancer, some like break dancer I was following because I love following any kind of movement, especially dance movement. And amazing, talented young dancer. They were doing some moves in the street, but their shirt or sweater had a big watermelon on it. And I knew what they were signaling. And it just made it so much, I don't know, it just touched my heart to watch that in a different way. And I feel that with profiles I visit, no judgment, but when I do see any post or mention of against apartheid and liberation for Palestine, it just lands on me a little bit differently. Even some folks I met recently at this festival, we exchanged information and added contact, and then they're cool. I like them. That's what we added. But then when I got to their profile and some chats and see their stories and posting about what's happening, all eyes on Rafah, what's happening, hands off Rafah, I'm like, oh, wow, thanks for being a real one. I didn't know that about you at the festival. We didn't chat about that, but I'm glad to meet you and we connected. It's a deeper connection, at least for me.
Yeah, I feel like through this also, like, I mean, just like with you, I've made some really, deep connections, new friends. There's this, your heart is just cracked open and is in resonance with anyone else's heart who's cracked open. And it's almost like I can't resonate if I feel there's a numbness in your heart. I can't resonate if I feel like you prefer to stay comfortable and not look at the horror that some people are going through and have been going through for a daily basis for 8 months. So it's and again, we go back to that thing where it's not about othering. It's not about like, if we are talking about this, then we are against the other thing. It's just saying like, this is important because this is a trauma that the whole world is going to carry, because we watch this on our phones. We are watching this every single day. And it's almost like the world is responsible, and we're going to carry this through. Absolutely. And our kids are going to carry this through. So yes, it's about Palestine, but Palestine is actually, representing how the world is in this moment. It's like a mirror, like what we just said. It's like this more litmus test to our humanity.
Maybe a thermometer or some kind of tester to check the temperature of humanity at large. Like, are we doing okay? Maybe not. And hopefully it'll open our minds and hearts to other, so much other, I feel like. I think it's really kind of a social media we're getting exposed, because post 9/11 and other wars, we didn't have this. Imagine if there's social media in World War II, what the world would be like. So I think there's a lot of complicity and programming to normalize all the wrongdoings. And I think we're going through that phase again now, but a lot more exposure to call it out. And I'm grateful that we have these devices and internet and social media to expose so much and educate. Having said that, there's plenty of misinformation and disinformation and AI, and I know there's a current image being used currently of Rafah that's not Rafah, and it's an AI image that was posted over 35 million times through Instagram, which is important because it mentions Rafah, but it is not Rafah, and or like an AI generated
and it makes it look much bigger, because Rafah is actually the size of Heathrow Airport.
When I saw that, I was like, where are the mountain like valleys, and what are these makeshift, though they don't look like the tents I'd see and whatever, but so anyway, I follow some accounts that were calling to that, and also respecting that we appreciate the support, but also consider, it's hard to filter through the AI stuff, but nonetheless, we have what we have and we make it work, and it can work the other way too, fake media, technology has its detriment like that too. So I just want to take a moment, Lâma, 45 minutes in. I want to thank all the folks who are still tuned in or tuning in right now. I want to thank you. And just want to be grateful for this time we have and this opportunity you created to have this chat. I don't do these kind of, I think this is the first guest live chat I've done. So thanks for being part of it.
You had to talk. You had to walk me through how to do this, even.
Absolutely.
You had to have a practice test. Yeah.
I think we could chat on for so much longer. I know our last WhatsApp chat, Lâma, was couple hours long, but in terms of attention span on social media, online, I just want to maybe bring it all back
Yeah.
together, talk about our workshops coming up, and also
Hmm.
continue talking about Palestine, free Palestine. And through that, I keep saying it that, when we talk about, oh, what about this and what about that? Hopefully, Palestine is that core focal position that allows us for liberation
Hmm.
elsewhere within our own
Yeah.
communities, within our own nations and regions. I think it's a powerful time we're moving through right now.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's really powerful. It is so raw. It is so
Very raw.
horrific
Yeah.
that there's just and I also want to give a shout out to Gen Z. I mean, they are just, I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm so, like just thinking like, wow, we have some great kids who are going to lead this world.
Yeah.
They're pushing through to what is right, to what feels right. They're very vocal. They're very, I'm just, any Gen Zs who are coming in here and like tuning in, you guys are just seriously,
Big up
yeah,
to the respect to the Gen Z. Yes. Keep on rocking it. You're
yeah.
leading the way.
And so, honestly, I am just really beyond excited to have you in Antwerp, and so that you can share your teaching and your spiritual work and your heart through your practice and through the workshops that you're going to be presenting. So,
Yeah. I
those
want
of you
to,
who are tuning in and who are in Belgium, you guys go to my link tree and click on that workshop with Zane and do come, because it's gonna be so amazing. It's gonna be so much fun.
I have a few names I want to share for people if they want to follow some yoga accounts, and I call educators and liberators because my arrival into Antwerp and my workshop content or material or experience, it's not like we're going to be having like a conversation on this subject in our
Hmm.
workshops. That's not what the workshops are focused on. My workshops are titled, Power, Precision, and Play, and those are infused with or blended with the knowledge I've received and the way I practice into having strength in our physicality and resilience in our mind and perseverance through our practice through strength building. So that's the power part, and the precision part is all the alignment that I've loved and meticulous work that
Hmm.
I'm sure you can relate to. We enjoy the nuance into movement and mindful mobility. I've been really jamming on joint health mobility for the last so many years. It's been a game changer for me in my practice. I want to share that material with y'all. And then, of course, a playful attitude or approach to practice that I'm so grateful and inspired by my mentor, Carrie Awerko out of New York. So, so I blend that in. And of course, we'll have moments in our breaks or conversations. I was having this conversation with my host, bless her heart, in Dusseldorf, where I'm going next week in Germany. And I said, don't expect that we're going to be chanting something like from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free in our movement. She's like, oh, well, we can do that if you want. We can do that in Studio Namaskars. I was like, well, that's an idea. We could chant from the river to the sea, or we can make it a movement chanting thing. But just FYI, for those interested in attending, we'll have plenty of time before and after the workshops, and hopefully within the workshop, presence and intention rooted
Hmm.
with the collective liberation for Palestine.
Yeah, and joy and fun and
Yes.
mutual respect and
And that's another, yeah, it's something, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's something I thought about the idea of having joyful experience through genocidal times. Not about that, but in terms of how do we play and have a joyful experience in our movement, in our
mm,
movement, which could be geopolitical movements, spiritual movements, uh, rising up movements, whatever. We can still make it a accessible way to find
yeah.
joy. It is possible. I know it. I feel it. How can I have fun conversations, even if they get heavy and intense? How to redirect into a lightheartedness to see the humanity into the person in opposition who I'm talking to, lean
Mm.
into each other. What are we seeing? What lens are you wearing? How is your heart tuned up? And can we get aligned? It's all possible like that. So it doesn't have to be so serious and somber and tragic all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that. Can't wait, Zane, really.
All
So
right.
just a quick note that actually 10 proceeds of the workshop will be going
Yes.
also to a charity, Heal Palestine, that Zane and I have decided on. So for those who are watching, you're interested, you can look them up. They're also on Instagram. They're doing amazing work. And yeah, so
I got to learn about Heal Palestine from an amazing yoga studio in New Orleans, a city I fell in love with last month. Big shout out and respect and love to Annie, the owner and director of that studio, Mudita Yoga Studio and Healing Center in New Orleans. And we did a fundraiser for Palestinian children in Gaza. And Heal Palestine was an organization. I let it up to her to pick an org that we could fundraise for, and she picked that, and I looked into it, and they're focused on empowering and educating children and, of course, humanitarian aid for children. So that meant a lot. I felt all of it means a lot, but what we can do, and all of New Orleans, the community came through, and we raised funds for Heal Palestine. So thank you again, Lâma, for including that in part of our workshop. So even if you're unaware, with any support you'll give for signing up for the workshops will be going to portion of it will be going directly to give any little amount of efforts we can to Palestinian children.
Yeah, can't wait. So July 6 and 7, Saturday and Sunday, head over to my link tree and sign up for the workshop. We would love to have you for both days because, you know, it's just more fun, and then you get to experience
sessions, you know, Saturday morning, long session. We've got a break, and then Saturday afternoon or evening, and then Sunday morning, Heart Openers for Humanity. So it's really just 3 modules or sessions. Hope you can join them all. And I can't wait to visit Antwerp for the first time, and Belgium for the first time.
Yeah, looking forward to hosting you.
Great. And I chose, July date specifically this year because I'm not in the mood to celebrate 4th of July this year out here in the USA.
You met.
I've done it last so many years, and I look forward to playing with my nieces. And it's also hot, super hot in this town in Bakersfield in July. Last year we're peaking in Fahrenheit, 118 degrees in July. It was scorching hot, inferno season is upon us. So it's nice for me to be outside. So I'm looking forward to spending early July.
It'll probably be a lot fresher here. Right. A lot fresher.
And we'll work on our Dubka dance
moves,
okay?
Yes. Actually, for those that are coming on Sunday, maybe if you stay back, we'll do a Dubka at the end of the workshop. So
great, wonderful.
Same.
Well, thank you so much, Lâma.
Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing this chat with us and yourself with our community. And look forward to having you in Belgium. And thanks, guys. Everyone
thank you all for tuning in.
On.
Anyone who's on this live chat the whole time or just tuning in now, I appreciate you always. Thanks for your support and thanks for your presence in this chat. Thank you, Lâma Coach. Follow her online. Oh, the names I wanted to mention. I'm glad I remembered. So the accounts to check out, Susanna. I don't know if you follow Susanna Barkataki. She's originally from India, based in USA. A powerful educator and liberator. All kinds of good stuff on her account for learning about I feel like there's a new transition a few years ago. It started in 2019, maybe earlier, but about just everything and, about cultural appropriation and how that plays into yoga and how I participated in it perhaps, and others too. We're all learning and relearning and unlearning. So Susanna Barkataki, check out Yogis for Palestine. Great account supporting, yogis, yoga teachers, yoga studios that are supporting the liberation for Palestine, from which I learned about Sheena Sood out of Philadelphia. Sheena's SHEENA SOOD, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Tejal Yoga, someone I've known through a podcast her and her friend Jaisal had started called Yoga's Dead. Were you familiar with this podcast? You got to check it out. It's like a
I have not. I'm
Yoga's Dead. Yeah.
Actually,
that was in 2019.
It sounds familiar. Yeah.
Tejal, Tejal, Tejal Yoga, based out of Los Angeles. I think originally from East Coast, based out of Los Angeles. Also, Harpinder Man out of SoCal, Los Angeles area. She was also teaching at the festival I just taught at, Harpinder Man. And one of the only few Iyengar yoga teachers I know, senior Iyengar yoga teacher, originally from Detroit, now in Hawaii, Kwisak. So Iyengar Kwisak, Gwiceok. I'll put this all in when we post this in the caption. I'll include all the links for people to add. So I just wanted to mention that there's many more folks out there raising voices and calling attention, calling folks in for the collective liberation of Palestine. But those are some of the ones I made notes for. So I'm glad I got to share that.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Thanks for sharing. And thanks for sharing so much of yourself and your time, Zane. And good luck with your with your travels next week.
Yes, I'm looking forward. Okay, I'll see you soon, Lama, in July.
See you, Zane. Bye, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you so
bye
much.
everyone. Take
Bye.
care.